Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Samantha Neal, and I'm going to be leading us through a 60-minute level 1 to 2 vinyasa. So we're going to get started with some nice slow movement in the middle of class. We're going to get heated up just a little bit, and then we're going to end with some nice deep stretch. So if you will, we're going to go ahead and begin at the top of the mat, just sitting in a comfortable cross-legged seated position. I want you to go ahead and just take the backs of the palms resting to the top of the knees. And just take the gaze forward, allowing the shoulders to fall down heavy towards the mat, elbows fall heavy towards the mat. And then we're going to go ahead and blink the eyes closed. Before we change anything about the physical body here, about the breath, I want you to just take a moment here of awareness and just kind of checking in with the body. How do you feel physically here in this moment, mentally? And just becoming aware of where the natural breath is here. You have a slow and short breath here, a choppy breath. And just becoming aware of the place where you're at when you walked into class today, and just how you feel. I want you to take that awareness a little bit deeper with the breath and just begin to take some inhales in through the nose and exhales out of the nose. See if you can't draw the inhales in to a count of maybe 3 and the exhales out on a count of maybe 4 or 5, drawing those exhales out longer than the inhales. With every inhale, feeling the spine lengthen here and the crown of head reaches towards the ceiling. And on every exhale, feeling the sits bones ground into the mat. On your next exhale, I want you to gently begin to drop the chin down towards the chest. Allow the head to hang heavy here. On an inhale, begin to roll the right ear towards the right shoulder, lengthening out through the left side of the neck. And on an exhale, beginning to roll the chin back down towards the chest. Take an inhale, drawing the left ear towards the left shoulder. And on an exhale, rolling the chin back down to the chest. We're going to take that movement one more time. On an inhale, right ear draws towards the right shoulder. And on an exhale, chin falls back to the chest. On your inhale, moving through the opposite side. And on an exhale, rolling the chin back to the chest. Take an inhale, reaching the gaze forward. We're going to blink the eyes open. And then I want you to take the palms just to the front of the knees. We're going to take an inhale and begin to pull the chest forward. Maybe take the gaze high here. And then on your exhale, beginning to roll through the spine, tucking the chin into the chest, coming to lean back onto the sits bones here. Take an inhale, pull the chest forward, gaze reaches high. And on an exhale, releasing through the spine, chin draws to the chest. Moving back up into a neutral spine. We're going to take an inhale and reach the arms high above the head, lengthening through the upper body. On your exhale, I want you to release the left hand down to the right knee, and we're going to take the right back past the right shoulder. So the right hand's just going to drop behind the back, and we're sitting with the spine tall, gazing past the right shoulder. Full inhales here, completely emptying out on the exhales, feeling that twist through the spine. Begin to release that twist, and we're going to inhale, reach the arms back overhead. And on the exhale, we're going to release the left hand down to the mat, right fingertips reach over, and we're going to take the gaze past the right bicep, Rolling that right shoulder up and back as we open through the chest here in this stretch. Continue the breath here. Take an inhale, reach both arms high. And on our exhale, we're going to release right hand to the left knee, finding that twist, this time on the opposite side. So taking the gaze past the left shoulder. With each inhale, creating some space in between the vertebrae here. Releasing gently through that twist. We're going to take an inhale, reach the arms high. And on our exhale, right hand releases to the mat, left fingertips reach over. We're going to take a gaze past the bicep. Inhale, reach both arms high. And then on an exhale, we're going to release the hands down, out in front of the legs, taking the hands to the mat. Maybe the forearms come to reach all the way down to the mat. And we're just going to release the head here, letting the head hang heavy, finding a nice release of the low back. Different options and variations of extensions here. We could maybe take the hands out all the way away from the body, pressing the forehead into the mat. If that honors the body today, we're going to take just a few moments here and continuing that breath in through the nose, exhales out of the nose, ujjayi breathing, nervous system regulating breath. If the body is fully extended, begin to lift the gaze up, and we're going to begin to walk the hands back into the midline of the body. Let's take an inhale, reach the arms up overhead. And on the exhale, we're going to draw the hands down through heart center here, pressing the thumbs into the heart space. Gaze is forward. Option to leave the eyes open or closing through the eyes. Before we begin with some movement here, I want you to just take a moment to just set an intention for the next 50 minutes or so of your practice. And by that, I just mean maybe thinking of something, someone, a moment that could make you feel a little bit happier, a little bit more fulfilled in the next 50 minutes. No expectations, just moving and breathing. If the eyes are blinked closed, we're going to blink the eyes open. Just release the hands from the heart space. We're going to take the hands out in front of the body, and we're just going to begin to roll over into a tabletop pose. So slowly making your way there, we're just going to find ourselves on our hands and knees, taking the fingertips to spread wide directly underneath the shoulders. The knees fall directly underneath the hips. Let's take an inhale and drop the belly really low. Take the gaze high. And then on an exhale, rounding through the spine, I want you to tuck the pelvis in towards the chin. The chin tucks in towards the chest. Gentle release down into a neutral spine. We're going to curl the toes underneath the feet. And we're just going to take a slight lift through the knees, just a couple inches above the mat, just to kind of fire up through the arms, through the body here, preparing the body for movement. Continue the breath here. Full inhales in through the nose. Full exhales out of the nose. Gentle release, knees back to the mat, uncurling through the toes. Take an inhale, drop the belly low, take the gaze high. And on the exhale, rounding through the spine. Taking that movement one more time. Inhale, drop the belly low, gaze reaches high. Exhale, rounding through the spine, chin tucks into the chest. Gentle release coming into a neutral spine here. We're going to begin to walk the hands away from the body. We're going to come into a heart melting pose. So option to just come down onto the forearms here, or maybe you extend the hands all the way out in front of the body. Option here to take either the chin to the mat or maybe the forehead rest to the mat here. A nice relaxing shoulder opening pose here. With every exhale, I want you to work on just releasing the shoulders, letting them fall heavy towards the mat here. I want you to begin to lift up through the gaze. We're going to keep the forearms exactly where they're at, and we're just going to pull the chest through here, so where the hips are sitting to the mat. You can walk the knees back, and we're just going to land here in a nice Sphinx pose. So you can walk the elbows directly underneath the shoulders here, and we're just sitting up out of the shoulder sockets, pulling the chest forward, allowing the lower back to fall heavy into the mat here. I want the gaze to just be a couple inches out in front of the fingertips. There's no stress in the neck here. And just continuing those breaths, acting as if you have a string that's attached to the heart space, and we're just pulling the chest forward here, allowing the lower body to be relaxed. We're going to begin to swing the elbows out wide here, just so that we can lower through the chest, and we're going to plant the hands directly underneath the shoulders. We're going to take an inhale, pull the chest all the way forward, Cobra Pose. And on an exhale, we're going to sit the hips back towards the heels, Child's Pose. Option to take the knees wide here, and we're just going to rest the forehead down into the mat, fingertips reaching up towards the top of the mat. From here, with the forehead pressed into the mat, I want you to just begin to move the forehead from left to right, giving a massage of the head here. Taking it at a slow or fast pace, whichever feels best to you here. Continuing the breath with the movement. The most important part of the practice is not any pose, any asana. It's really just that you're connecting any movement with the breath here, making the body feel comfortable to you. Only you know what your body needs today. Go ahead and find some stillness through the head. We're going to take the gaze up in between the thumbs, and we're going to lift ourselves up into a downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, I want you to take some freedom of movement here, just making some sort of movement in the body that feels comfortable to you here, maybe pedaling out through the feet, lifting and dropping through the hips. Again, just connecting some sort of breath to a movement here. Maybe coming up high onto the heel, up onto the toes, taking heavy, deep bends through the knees, working the body out here. Go ahead and begin to find some stillness. We're going to take the feet about hip-width distance apart, and then we're just going to begin to walk the hands back towards the feet. We're going to come to back of mat. Once the hands have reached the feet, we're going to take an inhale, lengthen through the spine. The fingertips can come to the shins or to the mat. On an exhale, fully forward fold, releasing the upper body down towards the mat. Crown of head reaches towards the floor. You can have a slight bend in the knees here. Take an inhale, lengthen through the spine. Making that spine long, a long straight line from the crown of the head all the way to the hip bones. On an exhale, release, forward fold. This time I want you to take a really deep bend through the knees, so much so that the belly rests onto the thighs here. We're going to take our hands into the opposite elbow creases, ragdoll pose, and then go ahead and just heel toe the feet out here for a wide stance. This should be a really nice, comfortable stretch here for the low back, allowing the head to hang heavy. We're going to begin to use the core to just draw the upper body up the right side of the mat. So the arms still stay connected. We're just going to take a nice slow movement up the mat all the way until we come to a standing position at the top of the mat. Take a deep inhale here. And then on an exhale, we're going to allow the upper body to fall down the left side of the mat. Begin to bend the knees about halfway down. And then a gentle release of the body at the bottom. Go ahead and release the hands here. And we're going to walk the hands back to the top of the mat, finding a downward facing dog. I want you to take the feet in about hip width distance apart. We're going to take the gaze in between the thumbs. We're going to take a big step to the top of the mat. Take an inhale, lengthen through the spine here. On your exhale, forward fold. Then take an inhale and reach the arms all the way tall, standing pose Tadasana. On your exhale, turn the palms away from one another. We're going to dive forward with the chin first, forward fold here. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. On your exhale, forward fold. We're going to plant the hands into the mat and just step the feet back into a high plank pose. So we're going to draw those shoulders right on top of the wrist here. As we're engaging through the core, I want you to just think about tucking through the pelvic bone, keeping those shoulders right on top of the wrist. And as we're here, keeping the breath long and drawn out here, inhales in through the nose, exhales out of the nose, taking advantage of that ujjayi breathing, sending that oxygen all throughout the body here. On your next exhale, drop through the knees, and we're going to curl or uncurl the toes, tops of feet rest to the mat, and then we're just going to take a bend through the elbows, lowering the chin and the chest all the way to the mat. Inhale, lifting up through the chest. Cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. We're going to take the gaze up in between the thumbs. Another big step, top of mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. On your exhale, forward fold. Take an inhale to reach the arms all the way tall, standing pose Tadasana. On your exhale, forward folding, upper body reaches towards the mat. Take an inhale to lengthen through the spine. On your exhale, we're going to release, forward fold. Hands plant into the mat. This time we're going to step it back right into a downward facing dog pose, lifting those hips high. On your next inhale, we're going to reach the right leg high and go ahead and take a point of the toe and then just take a roll of the ankle here. Taking the circle one direction and then the opposite direction. And then find some stillness here. We're going to take a deep bend through the knee. The heel draws towards the glute. And then just take a big circle with the knee here. We're just kind of working out through the hip. One big circle one direction. And then just taking that circle the opposite direction. And then extend the right leg back long, reaching the toes up towards the ceiling. We're going to take the gaze in between the thumbs and draw the right foot up in between the hands. Take a drop of the back knee down to the mat, uncurling through the toes. We're going to take an inhale, reach the arms all the way tall, low lunge pose. On an exhale, we're going to reach the elbows down towards the mat, coming into a field goal pose with the hands. Take an inhale, reach the arms back high. Maybe the gaze follows. And on your exhale, reaching down again, elbows draw towards the mat. This time we're going to release the hands all the way to the small of the back, and we're just going to interlace the fingers here. Begin to draw the palms down towards the mat, reaching the shoulder blades towards one another. And just taking some breaths here. With every exhale here, maybe you feel the hips sitting a little bit lower towards the mat. Go ahead and gently release the bind of the fingertips, and we're going to place both hands to frame the foot. Then we're going to reach the right arm up towards the ceiling, opening the chest to the right side of the room. Continuing that breath here. We're going to curl the back toes underneath so that we can take a lift through the back knee. Go ahead and take the gaze down to the mat. Both hands come back to frame the foot, and then we're going to roll the back heel down. Take an inhale, reach the arms high, warrior one pose. On an exhale, warrior two, open up through the arms, and then take the gaze forward to the front of the mat. Take an inhale, we're just going to reach the upper body forward, fingertips reach forward, and on an exhale, the left fingertips fall down the leg, right fingertips reach back, nice stretch through the right side of the body. And on an exhale, pinwheeling the arms back down to the mat. Hands come to frame the foot. We're going to step it back, downward facing dog. We're going to take an inhale here, move it into high plank pose. From high plank pose, your journey into a low plank pose. Inhale, lift through the chest. Upward facing dog or cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. I want you to take 3 resting breaths here. With each inhale, fully filling up through the fingertips and the toe tips. And on every exhale, releasing and removing all that stale air from the body. I want you to take the gaze up in between the thumbs, and from here we're going to lift up really high onto the toes. We're going to lift the heels up away from the mat. And then I want you to take a really deep bend through the knees here, again, so much so that the belly kind of rests onto the thighs. We're going to take the gaze up in between the thumbs and take a small hop top of mat. Take an inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way tall, standing pose Tadasana. From here, I want you to grab a hold of the left wrist, and we're just going to reach the hands over to the right. Inhale through center and switching the grip of the wrist. Exhale, arms reach over to the left. Inhale, reaching up through center. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale to lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. We're going to plant through the hands, step it back into a downward facing dog. From downward facing dog on your next inhale, we're going to reach the left toes high. And again, just taking that rolling motion through the ankle. Begin to find some stillness through the foot, and then we're going to take a bend through the knee, lifting the knee high, taking the heel towards the glute. And we're just going to begin to make a big circle inward with the knee, opening up through that hip flexor. Nice big slow circle. And then we're going to take another big circle the opposite direction. And then release the left toes to reach high up towards the ceiling. Taking the gaze in between the thumbs, we're going to draw that foot all the way forward. Step it in between the hands, and then a nice lower of the back knee, uncurling through the toes. Inhale, arms reach high. Exhale, settle in here. Hips release, heavy towards the mat. Relaxing the shoulders down away from the ears. Take an inhale, reaching the fingertips long. And then on your exhale, releasing the elbows down towards the mat. Inhale, reach the fingertips high. Exhale, releasing the elbows down. The chest begins to open here. And then we're going to allow the hands to fall all the way behind the back. Taking it, interlacing at the small of the back. Begin to draw the palms down towards the mat. Gaze can be forward, or maybe you reach the gaze high here. Just allowing the shoulder blades to draw towards one another. Using the breath to the advantage here in your practice today. Allowing it to settle you into these positions that might feel tense or tight to the body. Moving that oxygen throughout the body to your benefit, to your body's benefit. Gentle release of the hands. We can uninterlace, and we're going to take the hands to frame the foot. And then as we plant down through the right hand, we're going to lift the left fingertips high. Shoulders should be stacked here as we open the chest to the left. Fingertips are spread wide in that right hand, and we're being careful not to sit down into that right shoulder. We're going to curl through the back toes and then take a lift through that back knee. Left arm stays lifted. And then rolling the left hand back down to frame the foot. We're going to roll that heel down towards the mat, and we're just going to lift the arms high, Warrior One pose. On your exhale, Warrior Two, open the arms up wide, take the gaze forward. On an inhale, begin to, reach the left fingertips forward, and then on an exhale, we're gonna drop that right hand back, left fingertips reach back. Nice stretch here. And on an exhale, pinwheeling the hands down to frame that foot. We're gonna step it back, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, it's your journey into a high plank pose, and then from high plank to low plank. Inhale to upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale into a child's pose. This time we're going to close up through the knees to get a nice round through the back here. And as we place the forehead down into the mat, we're going to reach the arms down towards the feet here. So option 2, either just leave the palms resting facing forward, or maybe you grab a hold of the outsides of the feet here. A few resting breaths. Arms hang heavy and shoulders are relaxed here. Begin to reach the arms forward back towards the top of the mat. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to move back into a downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, we're going to take the right foot, we're just going to cross it over the left foot. So we just have a nice cross of the legs here. Obviously going to feel just a little bit of a different stretch throughout the feet here. Maybe center the feet right into the center of the mat. And then we're going to walk the hands back towards the legs here, coming to the back of the mat. Nice different option for a forward fold here. So just find whatever position feels best to you. Maybe you forward fold fully, crown of head down towards the mat. Maybe you just keep the chest lifted here. You're going to feel a different stretch either way. And then just finding your edge here, feeling comfortable in this position, and using the breath to the advantage here. Let's begin to walk the hands back to the top of the mat. We're going to release that bind of the legs, downward facing dog. And we're going to take a lift of the heels really high here, coming up onto the toe tips once again. Take a really generous bend through the knees, belly rest to the thighs. And again, gaze up towards the thumbs, small hop top of mat. Take an inhale to lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way tall, standing pose, Tadasana. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale to lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Planting down through the palms. We're going to step it back, downward facing dog. We're going to take that same stretch, just the opposite side here. So if you want to begin to cross that left leg on top of the right, centering ourselves here in the middle of the mat. And then taking your time, slowly drawing the hands back to meet the feet. Finding yourself in a comfortable position here, noticing the difference on either side of the stretch here. Maybe you come into a full forward fold. Maybe the chest is lifted. We're going to begin to walk the hands back to the top of the mat. Finding ourselves downward facing dog. And again, taking a lift through the heels here. Generous bend through the knees. Taking the gaze to the top of the mat, small hop top of the mat. Take an inhale to lengthen through the spine. On your exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way tall, standing pose, Tadasana. And on your exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen through the spine here. And exhale, forward fold. We're going to take that once again. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Take an inhale to reach the arms all the way tall, standing pose, Tadasana. And on your exhale, we're going to release the arms halfway down here. Arms coming out into a T. The palms can be facing upwards here. As we settle in here to this position, I want you to just make sure that the feet are evenly grounded into the mat here. Feet are directly underneath hip bones, and hip bones are directly underneath the shoulders. We're going to take the arms into a hug of the body, and we're going to take the left arm on top of the right arm. So as we do this, we're just going to begin to draw the fingertips towards one another, kind of reaching for the shoulder blades. And once you're here, we're going to release the shoulders down away from the ears, allowing the elbows to fall down away from the face. Once you're comfortable here in this position, option 2, extend this pose and just taking the backs of the palms to reach towards one another. We're working towards eagle arms here. A deeper extension would be to take the insides of the palms towards one another for a full bind. Again, whatever honors your body here in this moment. And then we're going to begin to lift the elbows up towards the ceiling, maybe taking a lift all the way up to where that gaze is towards the ceiling. Whatever extension feels comfortable to you here. And then breathing through whatever position you're in here. Begin to draw the elbows back down towards the center. And we're going to shift the weight here into the left foot. So I want you to grow strong through the left foot here. And we're going to come up first onto the right toe tips. And then we're going to lift up through the right foot, drawing the knee slowly up towards the midline of the body. Finding your balance here. Finding a focal point in the room that's not moving, that you can focus your gaze on here. We want to draw our strength from the core here so that we can find that balance. Continue breathing here. And then we're going to begin to slowly lift the leg back behind the body. The chest draws forward. Warrior 3 with eagle arms. So we want to find that flex in the foot so that the toes are pointing down towards the mat. Continue the breath here. Big step back with the right foot, coming into a lunge pose. Take an inhale with the eagle arms, lifting the arms high. And then on an exhale, we're gonna gently release, cactus through the arms, releasing the fingertips to the small of the back. Draw the palms down, take an inhale, reach the gaze forward. And on your exhale, releasing through the palms, we're gonna take the hands to frame the foot. Big step back, downward facing dog. Inhaling into, high plank pose. Exhale, low plank pose. Inhale, upward facing dog, or exhale, downward facing dog. Taking the gaze forward, your journey top of mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way tall. Standing pose Tadasana. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way tall. Standing pose Tadasana. And on our exhale, we're going to release the hands down through heart center, thumbs pressing into the heart space. A moment of stillness here. I want you to just allow the shoulders to fall down away from the ears. Again, taking that grounding through the feet into the earth where you stand. This time we're going to begin to ground down through the right foot here. So I want you to come up onto the left toe tips, and then we're going to reach that knee up towards the center of the body. Flex foot so that the toes are reaching out towards the shins. We're going to release the hands here and just take the right hand to reach for the toe. So option to take the first two fingers and grab for the big toe here. And I'm just going to take the arm alongside the body or at the hip. Option here to extend the leg long. Lengthening through the spine as we do, lifting through the chest. And releasing the grip of the toe, knee comes back to the chest. Take an inhale, reach the arms high. And on our exhale, hands draw down through the heart center. Traditional warrior three pose. Begin to lift the chest forward, leg extends back. From here, we're going to release the hands to the mat. And we're going to lift up through the legs, standing splits pose, drawing the crown of the head down towards the mat. Reaching those toe tips up towards the ceiling. On your next exhale, big step back. Left toes meet the mat. Hands come to frame the foot. Downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, inhale into a high plank pose. Your journey through a vinyasa, meeting back in downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, your journey to the top of the mat. Take an inhale to lengthen through the spine. And on your exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way tall, standing pose Tadasana. And on our exhale, we're going to take the arms out to a T once again. Palms facing upwards. Strong arms here. And we just take a moment to ground down into the mat here. This time we're going to wrap the arms. This time, right arm on top of left. So we're going to come into a hug of the body, reaching the fingertips towards the shoulder blades. Making a tight connection here. And then lowering the elbows down away from the face, the shoulders down away from the ears. As we go into this balance on the right side, we're going to begin to shift the weight into the right leg. So I want you to come up onto the left toe tips, lifting the heel away from the mat, and then drawing the knee up and towards the chest. Option to stay here. Maybe you come into the full expression of eagle arms here, backs of palms touching, center of palms touching. Finding your balance here, drawing that balance from the midline of the body. And then beginning to extend the leg back behind the body. Chest reaches forward. Continuing the breath here. Big step back, left foot reaches towards the mat. Take an inhale, reach the arms bound high. And then exhale, releasing the arms into a cactus. We're gonna keep that back heel lifted for a Crescent Lunge pose. Take an inhale, reach the arms high. And then exhale, cactusing through the arms once again, this time allowing the arms to fall all the way behind the back. Taking an interlacing of the hands, take an inhale, reach the gaze high. And then on our exhale, gentle release, hands come to frame the foot. Step it back, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, inhaling into a high plank pose. Exhale, low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra pose. Downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, again, your journey to the top of the mat. Take an inhale to lengthen through the spine. On an exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way tall. And on our exhale, hands draw down through heart center. Coming into our last balancing pose of class here. Again, just starting by drawing the shoulders down away from the ears. Starting in a relaxed pose with the upper body relaxed here, as we just ground in from the toes all the way to the heels into the mat here. We're going to begin to shift the weight into the left foot. So then we're going to come up onto the right toe tips, lifting the heel away and then slowly lifting the foot and the leg away from the mat. Knee comes up through the chest, foot is flexed. And then we're going to release the hands to just take the first two fingers of the left hand, grab for the big toe. Option to release the hand here and then maybe extending through the leg. Keeping the gaze forward. Option to extend the pose by taking the right arm back and taking the gaze towards the right side of the room. Lifting through the chest here. Keeping the spine long. Gentle release of the bind of the toe in the hand. We're going to take the hands back to heart center. And then we're going to begin to release the leg behind the body, forward folding to where the hands plant into the mat. Standing splits pose. So then those right toes lift high up towards the ceiling, drawing the crown of the head down towards the mat. Breathing here. Gentle release and a big step back of the right foot to the back of the mat, leaving the heel lifted for a Crescent Lunge pose. Take an inhale, reach the arms high. And exhale, releasing the hands back to frame the front foot. Stepping it back, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, we're going to take a couple resting breaths here. I want you to sync your breath here with mine, so wherever you're at in your breath cycle, I want you to empty all the air from the lungs. And then take a deep inhale inward, filling the body all the way up. And on your exhale, we're going to open through the mouth, let the breath out. We're going to take that breath once again, fill the body all the way up, inhale through the nose. And on your exhale, open through the mouth. We're going to release the knees down to the mat with the knees closed, uncurling through the toes, child's pose. Arms reach out towards the top of the mat. Forehead rest into the mat here. I want you to take a lift of the head and the chest. And we're just going to lift the right arm up here, reaching up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to take an interlacing of that hand underneath the chest. So the palm is going to face forward. And it's going to reach through to the left side of the mat. Option here to come up, releasing the hips away from the heels, so that we're going to lift up where the hips are on top of the heels. Right here, the right ear and the right shoulder are going to rest towards the mat. The gaze should be out towards the left. Option here to leave the left fingertips reaching towards the top of the mat, or maybe you come in for a half bind, taking the left hand to the opposite hip crease. If the left arm is bound, we're going to gently unbind through the arm, and we're just going to take the left hand to plant right in front of the face, and we're going to lift ourselves up to where both palms are pressed into the mat, and we're going to walk into a tabletop pose. You can take the knees right a little bit widened right underneath the hips, and then from here we're going to extend the left leg out behind the body, pressing the toes into the mat. I want you to shift the hips back. We're just going to kind of put some pressure into that left foot, stretching out through the calf muscle here. Releasing through that stretch, we're going to lift through the left leg now. We're just going to swing the left leg out onto the left side of the mat. The inside of the foot should be resting to the mat. Maybe the whole foot rests to the mat here. And we're going to take just a couple variations here, options for you. You can maybe come down onto the forearms here in this hip opener. Option to move into a heart opening pose like we did at the beginning of the class, maybe reaching the fingertips all the way out away from the body. Either the forehead or the chin can rest into the mat here. Again, whichever option feels best to you here. And I want you to think about sending the breath into the hip flexor here in this pose, opening up through the hip, sending the oxygen there, creating space within those muscles. If the body is fully extended, I want you to lift up through the gaze and just begin to walk the elbows back towards the midline of the body, and then pressing up through the palms. We're going to lift up through the left leg and then send it back behind the body. Tabletop pose. We're going to shift the hips down to meet the heels. Child's pose. Forehead rest into mat. We're going to begin to lift up through the gaze, through the chest, just enough to where we can lift the left arm high. We're going to reach up through the left fingertips, and then we're going to begin to send that left arm underneath the body. As we do, we're going to lift up through the hips, kind of send the body forward so that the hips are on top of the knees, and then this time the left ear, left shoulder is going to rest into the mat as we take the gaze off the right side of the mat. Left hand palm should be facing upwards here. And again, option here to leave that right arm towards the top of the mat, or you can begin to take a bind, reaching the right hand for the opposite hip crease. If you've taken the bind with the arm, let's begin to gently release that bind. And we're going to take the right palm to plant right in front of the face and using that hand to press us up into an upward position where both hands are planted into the mat. Coming back to that tabletop position, we'll want to take the knees right underneath the hips here. And from here, we're going to extend the right toes out to the back of the mat. We're going to kind of shift the hips and the shoulders back towards the back of the mat, pressing that heel down towards the floor. And then releasing through that stretch, drawing the hips back on top of the knee. We're going to take a lift through the right leg, lift it up away from the floor, and then drawing it out to the right side of the mat. Inside a foot rest to the mat here. Let's take the gaze forward. And then options here. Maybe you stay with the palms resting into the mat, or maybe you drop down onto the forearms. Option for a deeper stretch here, reaching the fingertips out away from the body. Either the forehead or the chin can rest into the mat here. About 3 to 4 resting breaths here. If the arms are extended, we're going to begin to walk the hands back underneath the body and then pressing the palms into the mat. From here, we're going to lift up through that right leg, send it back behind the body. Both knees come to the mat. Take an inhale, drop the belly low, take the gaze high. And on your exhale, rounding through the spine, tucking the chin to the chest. And releasing back into a neutral spine. From here, we're going to sit the hips back onto the heels, and we're just going to kick the heels out to the left side of the mat so we can move into a seated position. We're going to center ourselves in the middle of the mat here. So you can just take the feet out in front of the body. And from here, we're just going to wrap the arms underneath the thighs here, in between the thigh and the calf. Now that we're here in this position, we're just going to begin to walk the feet a little bit closer to the body here. Soles of the feet are still fully pressed into the mat. And before we take any other movement, I want you to make an adjustment of just drawing the shoulder blades back towards one another as we pull the chest forward, and we're going to begin to engage through the core here. And then I want you to practice with drawing the feet closer to the body, so much so that the toes are just rested onto the mat, and you kind of lean back onto the pelvic here. Now kind of testing with balance, maybe you lift one foot at a time, lifting the other. And then maybe you can practice with lifting both feet away from the mat, coming into a balance on the sits bones here. Again, engaging through the upper body. If we pull those shoulder blades together, engage through the core, we can find some more balance here. Maybe we take the shins out even with the mat, parallel to the floor. Option to continue to deepen by drawing the arms away from the bind. We're just going to take the arms parallel to the mat as well. Really engaging through the core here and finding that strength through the breath. So using the breath to the advantage. Again, taking the inhales in through the nose and exhales out of the nose. We're going to lower here to a hover where the legs extend and the upper body releases towards the mat. And then we're going to use the core to pull ourselves right back up. Boat pose. One more time, low boat pose, legs extend long. Inhale, draw it back forward. Holding here. And gentle release the feet back towards the mat. This time we're going to wrap the arms around the front of the legs, and then you can begin to walk the heels in towards the body. And from here, I want you to just release the head down into the knees, kind of coming into a little ball here. Making the neck very long, head hangs heavy. From here in this position, I want you, we're going to do a little exercise starting
with the feet. So with the eyes blinked closed here, staying in the same position, I want you to just curl the toes inward towards the feet. We're just kind of flex through the feet, engaging through those muscles. And then engaging through the legs, just simply engaging through those muscles, holding them tight, moving up the body, holding the core tight. Go ahead and even blink the eyes, close really tight, holding the muscles in the face tight, taking the hands into a fist, and then all of the muscles in our body are really just being exposed, being held tight here. So I want you to hold this for 3, 2. Can you squeeze a little bit harder here, engaging all the muscles in the body? And then release that tension. We're going to extend the arms and the legs out long, lowering the upper body down to the mat. Centering yourself in the middle of the mat if you're not already. And then I want you to allow the shoulders to fall really heavy into the mat here. Go ahead and blink the eyes closed. The palms are facing upward. The fingertips naturally curl inward here. And I want you to allow the toes to just fall apart from one another here. We're finding the body in a completely relaxed state physically here. As we move into the most important part of our practice, where we allow the body to take in the goodness that we've given it for the last hour. I want you to do another little awareness check throughout the body here. Just simply kind of noticing how you feel here in this moment. But this time we're not worried about the breath. We're not thinking about what the breath is or isn't doing. We're just letting it be. Finding a very organic breath within the body. Coming into the realization that for the next few minutes, you have nothing to do or nowhere to be except here and now. I want you to begin to awaken through the physical body here. Maybe for you that just looks like deepening through the breath. Maybe wiggle at the fingertips or the toe tips. And then I want you to roll over onto the right side of the body as we take a last resting moment here of practice. I'm just going to take the knees up in towards the chest and use the right bicep as a pillow. The left palm can rest into the floor. And as we move here into this physical position, I encourage you to move into an emotional space of gratitude.
here for this resting moment and this resting time that you've dedicated to yourself and to your body. Gratitude for your extremely able body today. Gratitude for this space that you've created for yourself. And find peace in that gratitude here in this moment. Whenever you're ready, taking your time getting there, I just want you to press up through the left palm, moving yourself back up into a seated position. We're going to meet together just the way we started, on our mats in a comfortable cross-legged seat. I want you to take the hands just alongside the body, fingertips resting onto the floor here. Take a deep inhale and just draw the shoulders up towards the ears. And then on your exhale, allow the shoulders to roll down the spine. Take an inhale, reach the arms high together. And on the exhale, arms draw down through heart center, thumbs pressing into the heart space. I want to thank you for sharing your practice with me today, but most importantly, your mind, your body, and your soul. Thank you today. As always, the light that is within me absolutely respects and honors that same light that shines within you. When we come into this place together as one, we are the same. We are one. Namaste.